Hello everyone, I welcome you all to functions in Python programming. So functions in Python programming we are going to discuss as part of week 5 module 8. So let us look at the various aspects of the functions in Python programming. So initially we try to define what is function, then we look at the different types of functions like user defined functions, library functions, those are inbuilt functions in Python, and the other aspects of the functions like how do you define a function, how do you call a function, and how a function can return a value. These are the three aspects which we are going to talk as part of the lecture 1, right? Then we will proceed further for function arguments, different types of arguments like positional arguments, keyword based arguments, variable length arguments. We talk about all these scope and lifetime of a variable with respect to the function that is being defined or considered. So we will discuss as part of lecture 2. Then we move forward further and we explore how recursive functions will work, and then anonymous and functions or lambda functions we will cover as part of the lecture 3. So if you are a beginner in Python programming, I recommend you to watch lecture 1 and lecture 2, also lecture 3. So initially in this session we look at the basic details about the function. Now how do you define a function? What is function actually? So in programming, almost all programming, high-level programming languages such as C, C++, Java, that includes Python also, supports the concept of functions. In fact, these are the functional programming languages. So what is function then? So a self-contained block of statements which are written for doing some task. Okay, these all are statements. So we normally treat group of these statements which are interrelated as a block. So the self-contained block of statements that performs a well-defined task. The task could be like factorial of a given number, or sum of n natural numbers, or whether the given number is prime or not. So such as, so now to find out factorial of a given number, you are going to define a set of statements that too in the form of a function. So that used to calculate the factorial of any given number as an input. So then why do we consider functions? So in fact, if you don't consider different functions in the programming language, imagine that you want to develop a new application and that consists of huge number of lines of code. Say there are 1,000 or 10,000, imagine lines of code is there. So if you include all these 10,000 lines of code in a single module or as part of the single function, then what are the difficulties that the programmer has to face when he compiles and runs this program? One thing is, because it is a used program that has a larger number of lines of code, so one thing is we lose the readability and the maintainability of this program becomes very tough. Maintainability of this program in the sense like, see, testing and debugging becomes very tough. So the one more other aspect of considering functions into programming, so I want to use some subpart of this program, see, at multiple places in my application. So what happens, because as you are keeping all these 10,000 lines of code as part of the single program, so you cannot reuse some part of this code again and again wherever it is required in the application. So because of that reason, the best way of doing thing is better you divide all these 10,000 lines of code into some fixed number of modules, say 4 modules, or you can say 4 blocks, B1, B2, say B3, B4, and each block will have then 2,500 lines of code. Am I right? Same like. So because of this, what is happening is we are going to divide the code, one thing, into different modules or different functions, and that itself will improve the readability of the code, and testing and debugging of each module, because each module now consisting of set of lines of code, becomes little easy for the programmer. The other way of looking at this is, so if this application has to be developed within a, say, within a month, 1 month, if one has to write the entire code in a single function, definitely will take much time, rather than if you can split the code into different modules. So these individual modules can be given to different people who works for the same project, and they can start developing individual functions. At last they can integrate the whole set of functions and they can get the application, get it done within 1 month. So the reusability of the block, once it is developed as a function, also becomes quite easy for the programmers, because now this module can be invoked at required number of places, at different places, so such that the once the code is written, that can be used at different places, right? So these are the minimum what we can see, the features offered by the function. Because of that reason, the programmers often will show more interest to use the functions as part of their coding. So let us look at these things. So I was telling you the function is a self-contained block of statements. So one thing, they are written for doing some specific job, where you can divide the larger program into smaller and manageable pieces that enhances the code readability, maintenance, and also debugging. So the advantages, you can see modularity. I was telling you, you can just split the code into different modules, and the modules can be reused whenever they are required. And one more thing is abstraction. So once the function is developed or defined, the same function can be used by the multiple peoples in their applications, even without knowing the inner details of the function. For example, in Python programming, we write print function. So in fact, print is used to print something on screen or into a file. So people will often use this print function in the Python to print something on the monitor. Am I right? So see, but the definition of the print is unknown to the people who are using the printf. That's okay. That is okay, because print definition is already, it is inbuilt. So that can be straight away used by the people, but they don't know how the print is going to print something on the screen. Because the print has to speak to the operating system driver. So the operating system driver has to speak to device controller of the monitor, and then the device controller of the monitor will start printing the process, the text that is supplied as a stream. So without knowing the definition of the function, people can use it. And of course, I was telling you, the organization of the entire source code becomes very easy for the programmer. So these are the major advantages apart from the readability and maintainability. So when you look at the different types of functions, in fact, every programming language, either C, C++, Java, they do support the built-in functions in the similar sense. In line with the high-level programming languages, the Python also supports built-in functions. In fact, comparatively with other programming languages, the Python is very rich in providing the built-in functions. Yes. So this is one of the very essential feature which really grabs the attention of the developers these days, to use the Python as their preferred programming language, right? Then user also can define their own customized functions as per their requirements. So Python also supports the user-defined functions. So now if you want to use the built-in functions, in fact, that are supported by the Python, many built-in functions are straight away can be used in the program, because the default, when you install the Python standard library that comes with ID, so straight away you can use it. However, some other apart from the built-in functions, if you want to use some third-party developed functionalities or modules which are available in the Python, you need to import them. For example, I want to use the square root function, so which is available in math module. So you need to import using the keyword import. So from the math module, I am going to use the square root function, which will calculate the square root, and that will be returned to a variable. So however, so if you really want to use the standard inbuilt library functions such as print, length, range, type, int, str, float, input, these are the very frequently used inbuilt functions. These functions can be straight away used by the users. The only thing is, if you really want to use them, you must know their the syntax, means what kind of parameters are the arguments these functions will take, and what are the return values the functions are actually returning. So if you can able to know the function declaration, so then straight away you can use these functions. Now the point is, how do you define user defined function? That was actually the point. So these are the some built-in functions which can be straight away used by the programmers when they write the Python programs. The only thing is, I was telling you, you must know the function declarations, right? I want to develop my own customized function. So how do I do that? So you can see, only one thing is that you must know how a function can be defined in Python programming. In fact, as we know, the Python is a dynamically typed programming language. Comparatively with other programming languages like C, C++, Java, what happens, every function will be associated with 3 elements. So initially we have to declare the function, then so we have to call the function, then we will define the function. So the declaration and definition should have the same signature. The function call will link to the function definition. So that's what is happening in other programming languages. The advantage with Python is, as I was mentioning, it is dynamically typed. The type of the data will be evaluated at the runtime by the Python interpreter. So one need not worry about the declaration of the function or a declaration of a variable in the Python. Only thing is that you are going to define. You can see that the function definition in the Python will start with a keyword called define, and then it follows the function name and follows the number of parameters. You need not worry about the type of the parameters. So once it is defined, so you can define your own customized code. This is called function definition, and then you can invoke the function, right? This is called function call. So we will see how to define a simple function. Now let us, I am just switched over to my Python idle. So I want to write a simple program that will add the given 3 numbers. So that I want to implement using a Python function. So you can see that we use the keyword def. Okay, let it be addition. I want to add 3 numbers. So initially without any parameters, see, I'm slightly inclined towards C language, so probably I may be getting the syntax of the C, but we will try to fix it. So right, so how do I do that? So straight away, without declaring any variables, you can do the you can use the variables. So imagine that I want to initialize, say, x is equal to 10, y is equal to 20, so then z is equal to 30. Is it okay? So I want to print the sum. You can straight away use the printf statement. See, x plus y plus z. Right. So now let me invoke the function. So I have just defined the function using the def keyword, and you can see that the colon represents that this is not any other objects like variable kind of thing. It is a function. So the parenthesis will represent if you have any parameters, you can write there. But if you don't have any, if you are not passing any parameters, that's okay. You can leave it empty because it's a function syntax, right? So I want to now invoke this function. How do I do that? Just use the function name. That is more enough. Okay, so let me run this. I want to save, just it is asking me to save. So you can see the output is 60, right? So the sum is 60. If you want to print the sum is like user guided statement, see, the sum is like this. So let me run it. So the sum is 60. So what just I have done? I have done is I just defined a simple function named as addition. I have considered 3 variables, and the function is what it is doing. It is just adding the 3 numbers, right? So that way we can consider functions. Now let us look at the details. So you can see the complete details are given here. So def is the keyword, and if you want to pass the parameters also, you can pass. So y is a parameter here. Parenthesis describes that it is a function, not an object. Of course, colon represents that the beginning of the function, right? So I have taken x is equal to 10, and I want to perform. See, y is already given as a parameter, so just I am performing c is equal to x plus y, and the function itself, it is printing the value of the c. So yeah, you can observe the variables inside this function. We call them as local variables. Sometimes you can declare a variable outside the definition of the function, that becomes the global variable. So yes, then the function can be called or invoked in different ways. For example, if I am see, yeah, so if I want to call a function, how do I call a function? So addition function is called just using this thing. So addition is called like this, but you can also call addition like this, in the sense, so say 10, 20, 30. So just you can pass the parameters over there, and you can return the result also. In the sense, you have to call the function like, see, addition, or else you can straight away use a print statement, where within that print statement means the function as an argument, you can also pass the function as an argument. So that also will print. So the different ways of calling a function, that all depends upon the whether function returns a value or not, whether function takes any number of parameters. So they can be categorized into 4 types, right? You can see on screen. Yeah, these are the different ways of calling a function. When function is taking arguments, when function is not taking any arguments, when function is returning a value, when function is not returning a value. So this is the basic way one can define his own or customized function, which we call it as user defined function, just to perform a simple task. You can see here. So just I defined a function named as wish, and just for that I am giving string as a parameter. You can see the string as a parameter, you can see. So name is assigned with the string. This is a function call. The function call will be linked to function definition, in the sense when function call is encountered, then it is the control or the flow of execution will be switched over from function call to function definition. So there onwards the control comes into the function body and it will print hello, and then the name is CBIT, hello CBIT, good morning. So this is the way how a user defined function can be taken into considerations. So when a function returns a value, in fact, indeed a function is returning a value, so that you can see how you can use the return statement. Return statement, return is a keyword in Python programming. You can return straight away the constant, or you can keep that constant in the parenthesis, or else you can return an expression. So you can do some calculation within the parenthesis, and the evaluated value can be written back to the calling function. So you can also return a variable. In Python, the advantage is you can return multiple values. You can see here what I am doing is I am performing addition and subtraction, and I am just returning the C comma D. So means the sum value and the subtracted value, both will comes to C comes to sum and D comes to sub. So you can print sum and sub straight away. So we will see a simple program again that returns a value. Let us go back to our terminal, and so again I will go for a new file. Yeah. So I want to find the sum of the n natural numbers. So I would like to define a function. Say imagine that sum underscore n, which take the n value as input. So because I want to perform the sum of the n natural numbers. So how do I do that? In fact, so because sum of the n natural numbers, I have to take some iterator or loop into consideration. So initially my sum is equal to 0. Let me go for a loop for I in range. Imagine that from 1 to n plus 1, you know the syntax of the for loop by this time, I hope. So how do I do the sum? Sum is equal to, so initially sum is 0. So every I value will be added up to you reach to n. Sorry. Fine. That's it. So it will be repeated again and again with every time I is incremented by 1. Fine. So now I want to print this sum. So in fact, I want to return this sum using return statement. That's what we are looking actually. So when I come out of the loop, just I want to return a sum. You can write like this, or else you can keep the sum in the parenthesis. Everything is okay. So I want to print because just if I want to print, before that I need to call the function. How do you call the function? Because you have to submit the n value. So straight away you can get the input by from the keyboard using input function, or else you can straight away call the function by passing some constant. So I want to print the sum of the 10 natural numbers. Is it okay? Sorry. Then function is called. Then let us try to, function is called, but as it is returning the value, how do you handle the return value? Either you can initialize this function called to a variable, or else straight away you can call this function as part of the print statement. So there the return value, the sum underscore n will be come to the print statement. So then print will be printing that value. So let us see. Let me execute this. Let us see any error is there. So let me, it is asking me to save. Okay, because yeah, you say sum. That's okay. Then let me run it. Yeah. So, but I think I have gone wrong. So sum is equal to, it's not 1. I have written 1. Let it be sum plus I. So each time this has to be done. I value has to be. So the sum of the 10 natural numbers. So it is 55. So this is the way how you can just use the return statement to return something. Got it? So when you send the parameters in the function call, those are called actually called as you can see here on screen. Those are called as actual parameters. And the parameters that are defined within the function definition, you can see these are called formal parameters. Arguments also called as parameters. So this is what how one can really define a function in Python programming. These are the basic preliminary concepts that one has to be well versed to define a user defined function in the Python. So these are the various references one can look at. So we will see the rest of the functions in coming session, that is lecture 2. Okay, right. Thank you.